Welcome to another episode of the Collision Vision, driven by Auto Body News. As always, I'm your host, Cole Strandberg. Today marks the continuation of our series on operational improvement, this time with a focus on technology and software integration. Today's guest is a repeat guest, Steve Olson, managing partner of Louisville Collision Center out of Kentucky, and more recently, Manchester Collision Center out of New Hampshire. With two shops so far apart, we're going to talk about how Steve uses technology and software to help his business scale and run smoothly and efficiently. Additionally, if you know anything about Steve, you know he is a culture fanatic. So it's no surprise we're going to discuss some culture and how it relates to effectively utilizing technology within his business. Enjoy the show. This episode is sponsored by Hunter Engineering. At Hunter Engineering, the theme behind all their products is do it right, do it once. So when you're doing alignments, the time to find hidden damage is before you start, not after. The workflow for Hunter's collision alignment system surfaces the trouble right up front by providing 5 additional collision-specific measurements, like toe out on turn, maximum steer, and ride height, to find the problems right away. It's all about efficiency, so find the damage before it finds you. To learn more about Hunter's collision alignment system, visit hunter.com. Enjoy the show. Steve Olson, thank you for joining us again here on the Collision Vision.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Looking forward to another fun conversation. I want to go ahead and dive right in and talk about the role of technology in your scale. Since you and I last spoke, you've added another shop. So you've gone from one incredible, beautiful, big location to 2. I'd like to learn more about how technology's played a role in helping you manage that growth and manage the operation.
Sure. So I got a really great opportunity. Obviously, not right around the corner. It's in New Hampshire, and I'm in Kentucky. So the challenge is, since I can't be in 2 places at one time, how do I find a way to make managing and overseeing and ownership in both shops become easier? And so that was a key part for how can I make it so that at my desk here where I live in Kentucky and spend 98% of my year, how can I make it that I'm still able to help and oversee and advise our team that's there? So that's been key, right? Having a system that I can look and see their daily sales. I can look and see their gross profit on jobs. So that I can help them kind of start in that same journey that we started on here 9 years ago.
Man, that is awesome. Were there any challenges from a technological perspective that you didn't anticipate as you scaled? And would love to learn also, kind of a 2-parted question, so bear with me. What's some of the most important technology tools you have, both at Louisville Collision Center and now with the Manchester edition?
Sure. I think the biggest thing has been a proper management system. And I think there's plenty of good options out there. We made a switch about 9 years ago when I first got here to Louisville Collision to Rome. And we really like Rome. It's been a great system for us on a management system side. It really gave us a lot of ability to see everything. If you're in a dealer shop, and oftentimes it's literally, let's say CCC1 to a DMS. They don't speak really well together. Some systems don't talk completely, and it's not body shop friendly. So we loved Rome because it allowed us to take information quickly from CC1, put it into Rome, organize it, manage it, track it, give us great reporting. We love the reporting in Rome, and then be able to transfer that to a DMS, which we ultimately send to our team in Florida. And that's been huge. So, and the fact that both shops were on the same system, I can pull up everything, every report I pull in Louisville, I can pull the same report there in Manchester. And that's huge because being able to do that and see that and have it be the same system, not have to learn 10 different ways to do it, it's been huge for both shops.
I think you make a great point, and yours is Rome, but the importance of having a system in general to where you can quite literally systemize a lot of the things that might take up a lot of listeners day to day. What things maybe you did earlier on in your career are now kind of, hey, here's the system, you guys know what to do? What are some real life examples of some making life easier?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing, right? And everybody in every industry, especially the collision industry, has had things majorly change in the last 4.5 years, right? The way that we knew it 2019 and pre-COVID and all that is completely different, right? So much more responsibility has been passed to the shop, so much more paperwork, so much more of the administrative side. So we've had to staff up that way. And that's where it becomes what tools are out there that we can use that help us do our job quicker and easier because we are the ones now primarily that are seeing the car. Most insurance companies in our markets still have not brought back, inspectors and adjusters to look at cars in the field. They're having you write an estimate for $17,000 and send it to somebody who's 7 states away, working in their pajamas in their parents' basement, and they're estimating going over the estimate, right? And so that's made it a lot tougher because what they're looking at in photos, even though we know how to take them correctly, what they're looking at and what they're sending back to the shop comes back a fifth or a tenth of what we saw in person. And so it's created a lot more. So anything that can save us time, that can make us more efficient, that can be quicker is huge because the administrative side has become so much greater in the last 5 years.
No question about it. And the operations have changed, and technology seems to have kept pace or even driven some of that change. A topic of conversation that's come up a few times recently, and it makes sense that it would, is AI. Are there any examples of now kind of working with AI within your organization?
So we haven't gone there yet. I will say that it's a key thing for myself and the managers that I've had here for many years with me to always see what's out there that's new, that's around the corner, that's going to be groundbreaking, right? And one of the things we just recently saw back in April was made by UVI, and it's a drive through. Think of it like of an MRI for your car, right? You drive your car through it, and it literally assesses damage from the top of the car, the roof, to the underbody, everything that when you drive through it, and it basically gives you a printout photos, everything that shows damage. So again, you're thinking of ways that how can we catch things we didn't? How do I prevent that customer from picking up and saying that dent wasn't there? Well, guess what? I drove your car through the new AI technology, and it shows at this time when I drove through it that dent was there when you dropped the car off, right? So all the things like that that are constantly evolving, and that's why I think it's important to be out there, to be at the conferences that are out there, to see the new equipment, the new tools, and the new technology that's coming. Because if you don't jump on board, you can be left behind really quickly in this industry.
It's more true than ever today. There's so much evolution happening. The networking piece is crucial. The 20 group piece is crucial. Taking a step back to shop management solutions, and you mentioned Rome and the reasons why. If you put on the hat of a listener here who's evaluating different shop management solutions, what questions should they be asking? What components of it are important? What should they be thinking about?
Sure. I mean, I think that the key part is how is it going to keep your staff organized and be able to do their job to the best of their ability. When we started this journey, of course, I started here 9 years ago. There were 28 employees, and only 4 of them stayed. We now have 45 people, so 41 of our 45 people are new in the last 9 years. Now, most of them have been here 7, 8, 9 years at this point, but we really had to kind of start over. And so, because we had a staff that was kind of newer in some things, we needed a system that was really broken down, that was really simple. We liked Rome for that reason. It was a great system. It spoke to CCC1, it spoke to our DMS. All that was important. I loved it for the reporting. I love the reports. I love the things that are available that you can check on and see. I'm constantly pulling reports every day that tell me sales in and sales out. I can see what we're producing, knowing what I want our goal to be, and did we hit the goal for each day, right? Rather than just what you don't track, you have no idea on, right? Can you imagine playing a sport and not keeping score? Like, as a guy that loves sports, that would drive me crazy, right? So that's what's important, is that we have something that tracks all this data, that tracks the gross profit in every job. And I'm sure there are many systems out there that do it. We just liked Rome for the time, and it's been a great thing. And we haven't had a reason to switch. It's kind of like, you're either an iPhone guy or an Android guy. And once you learn one, you're not trying to switch because it's too much to learn the other one. So we're happy with what we got. It's been giving us great results. We love the reporting and everything else that it's given our team at both shops.
The reporting piece is crucial. Making decisions based on data is a great position to be in. A mentor of mine always said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Can you give me any examples of some decision making you've done based on the data that you've gathered within your own operation?
It's interesting. This has been a different year. We had a phenomenal year. Obviously, COVID was a brutal year in 2020. We came out of it in 2021 with the best year in our company history. In 2022, we beat that number by 60% in gross profit and in net profit, and then beat that number again by even more in 2023. So we'd had two massive record years of growth in a row. And I thought, hey, why not do it again? 2024 is just going to be another major step for that. And 2024 is just kind of backed off. I know there's a lot of different reasons for that. In our two areas where our shops are, there was not much of a winter. I think a lot of the country didn't experience that kind of backup and high volume of claims. It's been a weird year with an election year. Just people have kind of pulled back on some of the things they're spending money on, and we're feeling it in this industry. So that's been a challenge. So through that reporting, I'm able to say, hey guys, here's where we need to, we need to throw our focus. It's really easy during those years when people are just walking in, and it's like a Chick-fil-A, where as long as you unlock the door, people are going to come in and buy what you're selling, right? And so it's easy to get fat and happy in that regard, where people are just coming in and handing you keys and saying, "Fix my car." But if we get too used to that, and now we actually have to go back and chase that work, that's when it becomes tougher. And so, by watching the reporting and seeing, I check every single day how much money comes through our front door. How many did we write estimates on? How many of those did we capture? What did that matter as far as our daily goal? Because that tells us, hey man, if the door is slow, we need to be focusing on this, or we need to be focusing on that, right? So that's been a key thing, is just constantly watching that reporting on the daily and making sure that we're focusing on, hey, we need the sales. We can't produce it if we don't have it. Once we get it here, then we can worry on producing it and getting it done.
Man, we could probably have an entire conversation about the trends of 2024, and for folks who have not used data to manage their business, I am afraid we've seen some pivots in strategy and operations based on the idea that, hey, this is the new normal. We're always going to have 2-month backlogs, and obviously it's not the case.
Yeah, I think we a lot of that in 2023 kind of start to disappear, and then the beginning of this year. And I do know, I think the number is somewhere around 12% down in claims this year. We are seeing less of that. And so we have to remember, what do I have to do to stay to be the top in my market? I don't have to be the top in the country, but how do I stay the top in my market so that I'm still capturing those jobs, right? Is there something we did wrong? Is there something I have staff that's not capitalizing on sales? They're not capturing keys and doing those things, or are we just a little bit slower? And again, I'm seeing this in all industries. I have good friends in the HVAC business, and people are spending less. I have people who sell alcohol, and they're selling less alcohol right now. So just people that I know that are in different industries, and we're all seeing kind of this slowdown this 2024 year. So then you go back to everything becoming more important, right? Just like we saw in 2020, when there were less cars, when COVID hit at its hardest point, and there were shutdowns and everything else. Every single dollar, every single penny mattered, and that's where we have to keep our focus. And sometimes it's easy to forget that, as we have people constantly beating on the door saying, "Fix my car, fix my car, fix my car."
100%. And most every industry you just mentioned is considered recession resilient. So it's a really interesting time from a macro perspective. I want to switch gears a little bit. And you mentioned something that I want to dial in a little bit deeper: your team and their tenure. Of course, you can have the best technology stack in the world, the best systems in the world, but it doesn't matter if the team doesn't use them. Talk to me about getting that buy-in from the management team, and then at the technician level as well. How do you make sure everyone's on the same page?
Sure. One of the most important things, obviously, even equally as important as the customer in our industry, is taking care of your staff and having a good staff, right? Having tenured staff, having people that have bought into what the vision is, what the goal is of the company. One of the things that's most important to me as a dad, as a husband, is making sure I can provide stability to my family, right? And so that's what I try to make sure that our employees have, and they realize, hey, this can be a place that you can retire from 20 years from now, 30 years years from now, right? Because I want to provide that, because so much of our industry is job hopping and, hey, my toolbox has wheels and all these other things, right? But if I give them a great atmosphere and a place for them to feel safe and express things that are important to them and needs that they have, that's what we want to do to kind of create that. So we've kind of built a team that's strong, that's rock solid here, that when the consolidators have come to our market, it hasn't affected us. In fact, we've gotten some good technicians over the last 2, 3, 4 years from consolidators coming in, because they kind of lose a little bit of that feel where they felt like it was like a family owned business. And that's how we feel, like a one big giant family here. So I think the key thing is going to your people and asking them, what could I give you, whether it's tools or equipment or technology that would help you do your job better. One of the things that we do, we travel to conferences together with my management team, and we'll go see new products, right? It's fun to go to SEMA to network and to see all the sites of Vegas. But if you're there and spend time and learn about some of the things that are coming out, and those guys come to you and say, hey, listen, this would really help the techs in the shop do this better. This tool would, this new system coming out would. And one of those things we added was repair logic, right? To be able to find things quicker and find procedures and everything that we need to be able to list that and document and get paid for it from insurance companies. One of the things we added, and that was brought to me by our team. So let them find the things too that are important that will help make their job better. Ultimately, what we want to do in the shop and for the technicians and for the painters and everybody else is allow them to do their job quicker on every job, right? And if I can buy a tool that does it, if I can buy software that helps them to do that, all that means is more production and the ability to produce more and put out great high quality work for our customer.
You make a great point as well, and it continues at being in the network, in the industry, out and about at trade shows, and keeping your finger on a pulse. Wanted to ask, who on your team is bringing in new technology? What does your management team look like, and how do you incentivize them to be looking for some great new things out there and hopefully be on the leading edge?
Sure. So up front, I have a manager up front, Ryan, and I have a manager in the back, Timmy, and they basically both oversee their half of the shop, right? I'm here, I'm primarily dealing with the front, helping with the customer if need be. If I need to jump up and write an estimate or deal with an insurance company, I'll handle that part of it. But my goal is that this place and the shop in New Hampshire doesn't need me to survive in the day to day, right? I don't want them to have to feel like they need me to do their job. They've been hired, they're qualified, they're paid to do their job, do it correctly. And so what we do is when we take a trip to SEMA, I'll bring them with me, and we'll spend a day and literally go just to collision hall industry and go through that area and look at it. Let's talk to these vendors. Oh, we saw this online. Hey, we saw this. And I think they understand that the bigger and better, the stronger the company gets, the more secure their future is, right? So if we have work coming in and we're capitalizing on it, we're having record growth and doing all these things, all that does is incentivize them financially, but it also provides for them more stability, which again goes back to what most people are looking for, right? There's enough to worry about in life that we can't control. What's happening at your home? You have a family member that has cancer, whatever. Those things that we have no control of. All we're trying to do is make your work life as easy as possible, so that that's one less thing you have to worry about. So I think that's where the feedback comes back. A lot of my techs are younger. We have a young team. Most of them are under 40 years old, and most of them are constantly in the industry, whether it's on social media pages that are connected to groups, or just checking out what's happening. They'll come to me and say, hey, have you heard of this? If it's not something I've heard of yet, I'll go research it. Hey, let's talk about it. Is that something we should purchase for the shop? Is that a tool that would help us to be better? And so I think that's the key part, is listening to your team. If you're just disconnected and you're the guy up front who's pounding on your desk and telling them what to do, you have to realize what helps them, be better at their job as well, and what might help them to be quicker. And that's where I think that kind of give and take comes into play. And then they know that you're listening to them.
It is no surprise that somehow in a podcast focused on technology, we bring in culture. You're a culture centric person. And so it's super interesting to see how those two kind of tie in and marry together. And it makes sense that you guys have been so successful in staying at the front of all this up and coming technology. I want to focus on the future and break out the crystal ball and talk about some upcoming things, I think, in the technology space that are going to be compelling. Before I do that, I want to ask one more question in the present and really break it down for a business owner who is listening right now, and maybe they're running the business off of Excel. The whole concept of technology and integration of this technology might be foreign. And so I'd like an elementary education, if you could, on what different types of or software, not even management software, there are for doing different components of the business.
Sure. I mean, it can get as detailed as you want, and I think that's the key thing. Excel will do a lot for you, and there is some line of thinking that says I don't need a management system that will text the customer for me. I can literally just hang post-it notes on the wall, and as long as I'm calling the customer and updating them and doing the things that they need to do, that's important. I will say at the end of the day, it's all about people and how you're responding, right? If me and you both drop our car off at the same collision shop, and your expectation is you're going to hear from them every single day on what's going on with your baby, and I'm just like, hey, call me when it's done, then you and I have different expectations of how we need to be treated as a customer. The management system is great, but it doesn't know that, right? It doesn't know that that's your baby. You've named your car. You've sent a get well soon card. All these things have happened in my 24 years, by the way. Get well soon card to the shop for your car. But the management system doesn't know that, right? It's smart, but doesn't know that. And so that's where the human interaction side of it still comes in. We still have to know what the customer's expectation is when they came in, right? But the management system can get as detailed as you want, from what parts aren't here to profitability on parts to profitability on labor and how you're doing all these things. And that's where maybe you're saving a lot of time, and we know how much time is worth by having that management system that will do all those things rather than you inputting all that data into Excel, right? We all know garbage in, garbage out, right? You have to put good data in. But if you're able to get good data in one time and you're able to keep track of it, anything you want to do, there's metrics, obviously, key metrics of what you should be hitting: your gross profit on labor, your gross profit on paint materials. And I think sometimes we chase it too much. Sometimes we let those reports do a lot of that, and we free up ourselves to look for some of those other things. So I would encourage you to check those things out if it's not something that you have as a management system now. There are plenty of groups out there. Collision Advice is phenomenal. Anything with Mike Anderson that he can do, but anything like that that can help you understand what's going to be best for your business, the size of your business. And maybe you're a small shop, maybe you're a massive shop, but what's going to help you understand, spend the least amount of time, but get quick data back that's accurate, that helps you run your shop to the best of your ability.
Great stuff. Really helpful in painting that picture. And another benefit of working with a Mike Anderson, for example, is it's more than a recommendation for what you are now. It's also a recommendation based on the understanding of what it is your goals for the industry, for the company are, rather, which is really interesting as well. And I'm sure a key component of your decision making process when looking at new technologies to integrate. I want to talk about the future because that's fun. And I know we've talked a little bit about some cool modern technologies that might be coming into the future, like UVI. We also talked a little bit about AI, and both of these might be the answer here. But looking ahead, are there any emerging technologies you think are going to have just a huge impact on the collision repair industry coming up here soon?
I'm excited. I think the UVI was the coolest thing I've seen this year so far. I am excited to go to SEMA this year, to spend some time out there and see what new products are hitting the ground. Again, I think it goes back to what allows my people in the front and in the back to do their job to the best of their ability as quick as possible. Crytech is a great tool, right? A lot of shops are rekeying estimates from insurance companies. Crytech obviously is a great tool that helps you with that. Again, saved time here means I can spend time on something else. And I think that's the key part of it. But I'm excited to see some of the new stuff that's coming out. There's people out there that are a lot smarter than me that have been doing this longer, and are coming out with some crazy stuff. And I think that's what's key, right? It's kind of always understanding that whether you've been doing this for 24 years like myself, or 3 years, or 50 years, that you can still learn more. And it doesn't matter if your shop has had a record year, or you're struggling. You need to go in with the mindset of, what can I learn? What tools can I learn about? What can I do to help my business to get better? Because at no point do we ever arrive. At no point are we ever done growing, right? And I think that's the key part: is how do we learn? How do we continue to stay open to new technologies out there? Because Yeah, when you get older and you're 5 years away from retiring, you're not going to want to flip the shop upside down to learn something new. But we have to understand keeping that technology as what's possible, what's out there, and how can it help me do my job better. And then having peers around you that challenge you. I have guys in different cities that I'm in group text with, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm trying this out. You should check this out." And so just kind of keeping that in mind and keeping an open mind, whether my shop does twice as much in sales as his doesn't mean I can't learn from that person. So I think that's the key. I think there's going to be some really exciting stuff coming out, and we need it because there is a whole lot more admin stuff that's come to us as a result of the last 5 years.
When you are considering a new technology, my mind would go to maybe I can't picture it. Maybe I do think, man, I can do all that on Excel. My wife gets very angry at me sometimes. She works with Salesforce in that ecosystem on the CRM side. And I'm like, I do that on Excel. Not a great place to be in a lot of cases, but how do you and your team kind of evaluate? Hey, is this going to be a fit for us? Will we find enough value in this to justify the investment? Is there a formal process or is it based on feel?
I think a lot of it's based on feel. Obviously, I like to see stuff happen. The virtuals and the webinars are okay, but that's why I like SEMA. That's why I like the industry events and the OEM conferences because now a lot of them are bringing vendors there that can show you, hey, here's how this tool works. Here's how this technology works. I'd like to see it, and then I might have my own opinion, not say anything, and see what my other managers say. And we're at dinner that night, and somebody goes, "Hey, that one tool was amazing," or "Hey, we could probably use that at the shop." And that way, it's a kind of a confirmation too. Obviously, price point matters, right? I mean, that are you going to get your money back out of it? What's your ROI? Is this going to get me more sales? Is this going to help me to do my job quicker and better? To maximize each RO, right? All those things are important too. So we don't really have a formal process in that. We make decisions here, but I want the input of other people, and I think that's what's key, right? A lot of old school managers, the thought process was don't put anybody around you that's as smart as you, because they might make you look bad. I do not subscribe to that. I want as many smart people around me as possible that they might see something differently than I do, and they might say, "Hey, Steve, I think we should go this route. I think this is a good idea." Sometimes we go that route. Sometimes I say, "Hey, at this point, let's wait and see a little bit," right? But again, if we don't know what's out there, then we can't even help ourselves if that's the case.
It's a great approach, and it goes to show why you've had the success you've had between a culture builder and a talent scout. The rest of it sort of can fall into place if you have a good team that you can rely on to bring some different perspectives. I know making that old school, I like it. Let's do it without bringing a team in to give some other opinions or confirm some buy-in is a tricky place to be because we all have our biases. Technicians are going to be drawn toward products and tools that make the technicians' lives easier. Sales minded folks are going to be drawn toward if it's not bringing in revenue, I don't want it. And accountants or real data folks are going to really want to know the numbers, maybe more than the other stuff. So to have that combination in that team is a bit of a superpower. Before we go into wrapping up and getting to the takeaways and things like that, is there anything from a technology perspective or otherwise that I haven't asked you today that I'm just missing the mark on that I should?
No, I mean, I think you're exactly right when you're talking about those things. And that's one of the key points I would say is maybe a takeaway from this is that as many of these tools that are out there, as many great things that are out there, technologies and things that are coming out, at the end of the day, it still goes back to the people, right? To connecting to our people, making sure that our people, meaning our employees, are just as important as the customer. We say the customer is always right, but if we don't have any employees to fix their cars, right, then we have our own issues. So I think that's important. And all these tools can be great, but again, they're not perfect and they don't understand the difference between you as a customer and me as a customer. That's where the human interaction comes in. So if those tools help us maximize our time and as a result allow us more time with the customer, I don't ever want my estimators to feel like they need to be rushed to hurry up and get done with one customer to go help another one, right? That's why we have the staff we do. That's why we have the setup behind me that we do, where they can literally bring each customer to their desk, explain it to them, show them the pictures of what they're replacing and why they're replacing it, what the repair procedures say by the manufacturer, so they feel comfortable. In essence, we're asking that customer to buy from us, right? To choose us as a repair facility. we're a zero DRP facility. So our connection to the customer is huge in that regard. We're heavy OEM, we're heavy certified, and that's our goal, is just to have that transparency and have that time. And so if that tool helps us to be quicker, to allow us more time with the customer, that's what's important. But even with the technology, don't lose the human interaction side, right? Both with your staff and with your customer, for sure.
Make yourself not a commodity, right? And I think you've done a brilliant job of really differentiating from your customer's perspective in the marketplace, and just thrilled with the success that you're having and continuing to have, even just since we last had you here on the Collision Vision. With that, I know we touched on probably at least one takeaway there. I do want to drill down in on it. As you know, we like to end each episode of the Collision Vision with 3 key takeaways. What do you think those are for a conversation today?
Yeah, number one, like I just mentioned, is maximize your time, so that you can spend more time with people. Spend more time with your staff. This week, we're taking a bunch of technicians to lunch just to say thank you, to get feedback, to get them out of the shop for an hour, where we're just able to talk and connect and have fun, just to continue to build that relationship, that two-way street of talking. But again, that connection to people, even with the technology, that connection to people is always going to be key. Taking care of people. People are our number one asset. They have to be. And if you're in your shop and you're not realizing that's what's happening in your shop, it's time to refocus on that. Number two, you have to be able to adapt to change, right? So much has changed in the last 5 years, in this COVID, era that we're in. And as a result of it, we've had to adapt. If you are not going to adapt to change and you're not going to see what's out there and challenge yourself to be better, you're absolutely going to be left behind, right? We know there's a lot of technicians out there, a lot of people in this industry that are older, that are not going to do this forever. They're not going to do this for 5 more years. And so where does that mean your shop goes, right? We know how much consolidators are buying up shops left and right. And how does that affect your business? And what do you have to do to make sure that you're still relevant and still saying, prominent in your market, to be a key shop to survive all that? Number three, don't lose that connection, with your staff. Keep the two-way communication. Realize that that's what's important. Realize that the most important thing that you can do is listen to your team to, help them win. One of my biggest philosophies as a culture thing is that the tools and the equipment and the technology that we use, I want that to help make my technicians earn more. I think that mindset of the boss is making more money and we're not, can quickly tank a business. My goal is for everybody to win together. And the way that I'm going to win the most is by helping my team win first. And if we're able to do that, if I'm able to look every year and annually, each of my employees is seeing that increase in their paycheck, then they're going to be okay with me doing the same thing, right? And I think that's a key part. If your team knows you want them to win first, I think that's a key thing, and they'll be around and they'll fight for you, because they know you're fighting for them every day too.
Your focus on culture is awesome. It's gets me excited every time we connect. And I think it's going to have the same effect on our listeners. Once again, for technically your second, but realistically your third appearance here on the Collision Vision, could you drop any contact information where people can follow you and connect with your organization?
Absolutely. Well, they're certainly welcome to email me here at the Collision Center, primarily at the one in Kentucky. So Olson at LouisvilleCollision.com, or on LinkedIn. It's super easy to find me on LinkedIn. Reach out. I've had a lot of people. It's been really cool. Talking to a guy now that's, a 5-man operation shop in Illinois. Just wanted some help, wanted some input on how to grow things. And it's been great. It's been great to, have another helper, another person that's starting that journey that I started in, 24 years ago. I started washing cars and kind of learned every step of the way coming up through. But absolutely reach out. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to meet new people. Love to help any way I can. This is an industry that needs a lot of strong people in it. And the more strong shops out there, the better for everybody.
Well said, man. And I'll be sure to include those links in the show notes as well to make that easy for folks. But Steve, thank you very much for joining us here on the Collision Vision. Really enjoyed our conversation today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
Thank you again to Steve Olson for joining us once more here on the Collision Vision. Technology and software for your shop is more important than ever, and I appreciate Steve's handle on the topic. What interested me most, though, was his thoughts on the intersection of technology and culture. As always, culture is king, and it seems to grease the wheels of just about every component of your business. With that in mind, I wanted to reiterate Steve's key takeaways one more time. And those were number one, maximize your time. Time is valuable to make sure you can spend more time with your people. Automate or at least standardize the less important stuff. Software and technology can help there, but keep in mind there is nothing more important than your people. Number two, be ready to adapt to change. So much has changed over the last 5 years, and that change shows no sign of slowing down. Take advantage of the opportunities change creates. Focus on staying and being that prominent player in your market. And lastly, keep connecting with your staff. Communication, communication, communication. Help your team win by getting them what they need to succeed, whether that's tools, technology, or otherwise. That's all for today's episode of the Collision Visions series on operational excellence. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that follow button wherever you enjoy your podcasts or on YouTube, where the Collision Vision lives in video form. Please also be sure to leave a review and share us with your network as well. And as always, on behalf of the Auto Body News team and myself, thank you for coming along for the ride.